fine, but it is definitely misting. And here's the guys we think, and others seem to think, you need to be watching in this one. There's obviously the defending champion, very quick, qualified second, Wilson Wright Jr. Another driver who is going to be a factor is Mark Brannon. If it's wet, and it's getting there, the Mazda, the front drive, could really be very, very strong. And another driver you simply can't discount is Russ Theus. He is exceptionally quick. He is going to be somebody to watch. So that is the three that others and we seem to think you need to be looking at as this race unfolds. But there are some other great stories in the GT4 ranks. It's amazing where some of the drivers come from. Listen to this one.
Russ Theus has been competing in GT4 competition here at the Runoffs for over 10 years. Now, Russ, you won this championship in 1995, have taken a couple years off now to design and build a brand new race car. How's it been going?
Pretty good so far. We're probably about 95% of the way to where I'd like to be with the car. Hopefully we'll get that last 5% on Sunday afternoon.
Well, you've qualified the thing third now, so you've got a pretty good starting shot. Same competitors you've been running against. Can you beat them?
Yeah, we can beat them if the driver's right. We had a little problem in qualifying with the driver not doing his job.
Well, guys, you know what it's like. You got to talk to those drivers, get them aside and talk to them.
Yeah, you gotta work them a little bit. The crew's got to be there for them. There's the cockpit. There's the office of a GT4 machine. And Russ Theus, tremendous experience. And you'd have to imagine, Dorsey, if it gets wet, continues to get damper, it's that experience that's going to play. We'll be able to enjoy some great onboard shots from Russ Theus's car. And he's going to be starting third. Biz?
Well, I'll tell you, it's the dampness that's dangerous right now. This is so slick out here, you can't believe it. I feel like I'm on Horseshoe Bowl in Breckenridge. And when you get to the paint, you can hardly stand up. Right now, all the oil and all the tire, it's all on the track, and everything is just covered with this light little mist. I mean, right now, I bet the drivers wish that it was flooded rather than this icy ice rink condition.
Well, we've seen that so often, haven't we, guys? He's absolutely right. If it's just a wash, you put on the full range, you go drive, but just the sheen on the pavement, you just don't know what to expect.
Exactly. The sheen, that brings the inconsistency and uncertainty. If you know it's soaking wet, you go to the normal rain line, the places you figured out, but here it's constantly changing, and like John said, it also hasn't washed away the surface, the little bit of surface grime.
And the guy we were just on board with, Rusty Bell, he may have a little bit of an advantage here. He's one of the track announcers here. He races here. He knows this circuit, wet, dry, a wash, whatever, and he qualified a little bit further back than we might have expected. He had a good year, second in the Central Division in GT4. He might just be able to make some moves up to the front.
Russ Theus there was a 27-year engineer at Ford Motor Company. He took an early retirement, and he did this whole race car, unlike some of these that Don Preston built. This is his design. He did everything on this race car himself. Took 2 years to build the car, and he's won 6 out of 6 races in it so far this year.
Been very impressive, and Russ Theus pretty amazing. Now, we need to tell you the onboards, which are great here. We're back on board with Rusty Bell. We might be losing those fairly soon. There is some fairly heavy weather that might be moving this way. If so, the FAA has said they will have to ground the planes that we need to have in the air to bounce signals off of. So if that happens, that's why. And we certainly would regret it, but, you know, safety being an issue here. We've still got a great camera crew located around this track, and you're not going to miss a thing. The coverage is going to be superb. They're through turn 1, back on board with Theus, and you can see the moisture starting to build up there.
I would say this is one of those things. Watch turn 5, which is the effective turn 1 on the first lap. All these guys, the condition that John Biz spoke of could catch these guys out. I would keep a really close eye. Either you're going to have a whole gaggle of them going off, or everybody's going to be ultra conservative, because I think that's what it's going to take to make it through 5 this lap.
Well, we'll watch for it. They're now in the keyhole, and they get through this, and then long run down to the green flag. That's what I mentioned. Camera crew, they are the best, and they do an awesome job. A little wave there. They're out there in these conditions all day long and bringing you some absolutely remarkable coverage, and there's a number of them around the track and in the pits. But the field now starting to head toward the camera, situated by start finish. There's the green, and the GT4 National Championship race is underway. John Olson, the red car, on pole. Next to him, Wilson Wright, and it's behind the red car. There's Theus. He looks. He's got it inside. I think the ultra-conservative Manta's playing in here as nobody really even slipping and sliding too much, at least to that front group. Now watch the car in fourth. Kirk Olson. Oh, and there's an off.
Yep, that one took off on him on Datsun 510. It hit sideways over there.
On TV, I think.
And our lead car had a big slide at the top of Madness as well.
You know, John Teeby is known as one of the very quickest drivers, but he also has a reputation for just being flat out all the time and going to the front, and that may have caught him. Now we're on board with Rusty Bell, who I think has moved up pretty smartly as a result of that incident. Let's go back and take a look what may have happened here to John Teeby. Yep, that's John right there, right behind the guy I was talking about, Kirk Olson in the CRX.
Watch Michael Parks in the orange car in the second. He's going to get a big slide going right here at the top and almost make contact with the leader. You see he had to straighten it up right there.
Teeby just gets it loose and squirts off to the right. Gets in the wet grass and pretty square smack.
Ripped the spoiler off. Let's see, we may have another look at this here. Now watch this. Whoa, it's a different incident, and a couple of guys getting involved. And 00 is, as I said, Hubert Dupree, a two-time national champion, and his day may have come to a very early end. Now they're going to try and get these cars off track so that we can continue with green flag racing. There's a little bit of moisture from one of the cars there, Doris.
Looks like oil. It looks like off the right front corner there. There's an oil cooler up in there that's burst a hole. You see that right there on the track. That's some oil right there, and that's a little Volkswagen Rabbit. He punched the door in. Look at the bottom left side of the door.
Yeah. Those corner workers, they are awesome in trying to get things taken care of. But up front, look at the move here. Kirk Olson, that front drive CRX, he was able to just cut underneath and use that front drive power, and he now is your leader. But John Olson, look at him. He's going to run him tough on the outside.
You said it with the front wheel drive and it being slippery and rainy. There's a no passing zone. You see other corner workers saying, slow down, get out of here, and move over because there's some cars on the road right up here in front of you.
Yep, Theus is now third, and second qualifier Wilson Wright has slipped to fourth. Now they're coming through. There is Teeby, who is off to the right of the track. That's why we're yellow right now. But John Olson, Sandy, had just got passed by Kirk Olson.
Well, Scott Wallace was just talking to him moments ago as crew chief on the radio. Is he okay?
He said he's okay. That's all I can get from him. So if there was anything more major, then he would have said so.
Well, I know your team's been doing a lot of preparation for this season. Tell us what you've been doing to make sure this is a successful runoffs for you.
Well, we used this season to test the car, went to all the races and dialed the car in and made sure that when we got here, all we had to do was race and not fool with the car.
Now, I know there's a few DNFs to his credit. What's the reason for those?
Minor altercations with other vehicles on the track.
So as a crew chief, you're saying then not mechanical, not your fault?
No, we have had no real mechanical trouble. A few minor things here and there, but basically we're okay.
Okay, that's Scott Wallace, John Olson's crew chief.
What he's telling you is that John has a fast car and he's willing to race it hard. I think that's the message we got right there. So there's number 3, John Olson, who we were just talking about, your leader, as he is working through turn 1 right now. And
we have a full course caution out for those cars, which is why they're going at a reduced pace.
Yep, Russ Theus now is second, and 7, Wilson Wright is third. And there is John Teeby, who had a great opportunity here, but went away on him a little bit early here on the opening lap. We'll be back for more of GT4.
Explosive, unrelenting, death-defying, the most intense.
On Speed Vision is being brought to you by Valvoline. You can always tell the guys who use Valvoline. It's also being brought to you by the new Dodge. We are under a full course yellow, and you see number 93, Kirk Olson, is the one right behind the pace car. Then it is number 3, John Olson, behind him Russ Theus, then Wilson Wright, and then Rusty Bell, who has had a great opening series of laps and has found himself in the top 5. There's a good look at Wilson Wright, the defending champion in this event, qualified second. He was backpedaling a little bit in the early going. And these cars, nowadays, they used to be pretty much unibody production cars that were modified, but a lot of tube frames being used now and different setups on the cars. Takes tires longer to come in. Handling is different on these things, and it may take a while for some of these guys to get sorted.
Yeah, and also everybody's on slicks, but and if they were up to speed, they might be able to keep enough heat in the tires to keep up with this drizzle. Well, now the tires are cold, and if the track has gotten any wetter, it might get to the point where you can never get them warm, and you'll have to contemplate going to rains.
Well, you can see the field continuing to circle around behind the pace car. And it looks, though, as though we're getting the indication one more lap of yellow. So we might see the lights go out here and get back to green flag racing in fairly short order. You can see, boy, as you said, Tommy, they are paying an awful lot of attention on I'm guessing, a somewhat slick surface to try and keep some sort of heat in these tires. Lots of weaving back and forth. And Sandy, up front, there's a little concern.
Well, this is Dave Stone. He's the crew chief there for Kirk Olsen. That pass, what happened there? Was that under yellow, or?
We're over here. We can't see what's going over there.
But how was it explained to you from Kirk?
We're not in radio contact with him.
Now you got a radio in your hand. Is that a spotter? What did your spotter say?
On the backside, and he couldn't see him till he got into turn 7. So when he saw Kirk was in the front. So somewhere between, where we saw him leave, go through turn 1 till he came down into turn 7, he was in first place. At some point, there was a yellow out, but we don't know where he was when the yellow came out.
You think he was past that incident?
There's a good possibility. He's a smart driver. He doesn't do dumb things.
Okay, well, that's Dave Stone, and this may be a little bit controversial here, guys.
We can say definitively he was not near the incident. The incident was down in turn 5. So the only question is whether the stationary yellows, which were out at that point up in the keyhole. From the replay, at least the angle we have, it's not conclusive. We can't. There were none shown in the replay. Whether
there's no corner station in that replay either.
No, the corner station's way inside on that corner, and we never did see it, so we can't verify if there was a yellow out or not. So.
All right, we do need to pass along, folks. There's the sky. Look at the sky. You see the ceiling, as the FIA refers to it, has lowered, and as a result, their planes are grounded. So our in-cars are gone, at least for now. We can always hope that this might lift a little bit, and if so, believe me, we'll get those planes up and get the onboards working again for you. But right now, we are sans onboards for a while, and we are, though, going green. And Olsen, boy, did he get a jump in that Honda CRX and lead up into turn 1. And there's that little damp patch underneath the bridge. Here is number 3 Olsen, then Theus. That's your top 3 right now. Wilson Wright and Rusty Bell. Just a great drive here.
There you can see it's wet enough. They're actually leaving tracks now. And so in the previous Formula Continental race, they were not leaving tracks, yet they had all kinds of trouble when they got to turn 1. So it's even wetter than it was there. Now, his crew chief said he's a smart driver, and Kirk Olsen did what smart drivers do and got himself a great jump, because he's given himself a second and a half, and so even if the other guy's a little bit quicker, it might take him 5-6 laps to get close again.
Ooh, big wiggle there, Doris.
Yeah, that's coming out on the straightaway, big wiggle, and that's going to hurt him on top end down here. Watch for John Olsen possibly to be passed in the brake zone, but it's really slippery, so I'd be real tentative right now if I was Russ Theus, because the track conditions change lap to lap right now.
Actually ran into Russ at a restaurant just a couple nights ago, and he was very confident. He thought this car was very capable of a win here, but obviously we didn't know what the weather was going to be at this time, and right now he's sitting in 3rd, and he's not able to really do much with Olsen right now. And in fact, now Wilson Wright, the orange car, is starting to turn up the heat just a little bit.
Well, right now the advantage definitely goes to the front-wheel drive car, no question, because this is the worst possible condition. It's not raining hard enough to have rain tires, but it's raining hard enough to be just darn slippery. Look right there.
The leader has gone around, apparently.
Yep, leader has spun by himself, is now recontinued, and loses the lead, obviously, all the way back to 5th place now.
Boy, and that's an area of the track we have seen cause havoc yesterday and earlier today. But that now puts Olsen in the lead. Theus 2nd and Wilson Wright 3rd. And we have a 3-car scrap for the front.
With possibly the fastest car behind all of them.
Yeah, I would think you're right, Tommy. I think the front-wheel drive car, there was obviously a mistake made there, but that doesn't keep it, it didn't crash, so it doesn't keep it from catching back up. And, of course, we're looking at the 93 back there.
Yeah, he's 5th. So he's not that far out of it. We got now complete lap 5, so there's still 14 laps of racing to go. And the way he was drawn away after that restart, he's not out of this.
It was kind of a strange spin. I'd like to see a replay of that, because he had actually done everything well before the corner. So it wasn't like most of the guys. He definitely didn't do what the other guys did, putting his wheel up on that outside curb. I think he must have spun coming down the hill and had come to a stop, but had already put it back in gear and was starting to go. Here we have a big contest.
Whoa,
there you have Theus working inside on the concrete.
That hurt Theus, didn't it? Because here comes Wright.
It stepped out big time on the outside. He had to get out of the throttle and pedal it, and right now he's got the big run going. There's no way he's not going to make this pass easy.
We've We've talked about this. We talked about it all day yesterday. At a certain point, you can't just follow somebody, though, and
look at
you have to take the move. Now, Thea's coming back. And look at Kirk has already moved up into 4th, so Kirk Olsen wasting no time either here.
Boy, these guys side by side, we know how slippery it is up on top of the hill here.
These guys, remember, they all started on slicks, so...
And one of the advantages I would think Kirk Olsen would have here is that if he needs to, he can go off onto that concrete when it's a little bit slick. With that front drive, he'll just sort of or power push a little bit, but that's controllable.
It's a lot easier to modulate when you get the slip on the front tires, because you feel it right through the steering wheel, and you start deviating from your chosen line. You pedal it just a hair, only what's necessary, and you run much closer to maximum traction with just modulating the front wheels.
So out front, Olsen opens it up a little bit. Then the orange car of Wright, then Theus, number 37, and then they've actually opened up a little gap again to Kirk Olsen.
Olsen just needs to be patient here, because these guys are got their hands full just by themselves, and so if he gets too aggressive, it looks like he has the fast car. The car in front is not exactly drawing away, and so the worst thing he can do is force the issue and have 2 of the guys get in trouble in front of him.
Well,
here
look
he
here,
goes.
look
There,
here.
3 wide. As I say that, he makes it 3 wide. So.
Well, Theus got a little bit of a run on Wright, and Kirk Olsen and the Honda got a great run on all of them, and this might be a double pass. If he can make it stick, he'll go from 4th to 2nd. Oh, almost a bump. I don't know that they touched, though. Nice driving.
Well, I think he had to get out of it.
Comes back on him because he got it.
Had to get a little lift. He lifted to keep from hitting the 7 car, and when he did, Theus almost got up inside there too.
So they race hard, but these guys race clean. Of course, a lot of these guys race against each other all year long, and so they're pretty comfortable with each other. And, oh, we just had a move. It looked like Olsen at the front. Now we're talking John Olsen. He stumbled, and Wilson Wright got a great run on him. But now Olsen starting to stretch it back out again. Now John Olsen is in the number 3 car up front. Kirk Olsen is the 3rd place Honda. The yellow and blue number 93, thinking about it, but no, as Wilson Wright able to fend him off down into turn 7. And but now look at Olsen. He does what we talked about, tried to get on the concrete. It's not going to work, and John Bizignano, his crew chief, has got to be really wringing his hands at this point.
Well, Dave Stone is worried about him out there, but he's totally confident. Dave, you say your driver can handle this pressure. He knows what to do in these conditions.
He's an intellectual driver. He pays attention. He's always done a good job. He doesn't get flustered. He's very aware of what's going on around him, and he's an excellent driver. I love to have him driving my cars, I tell you that.
I tell you, Dorsey, Tommy, an intellectual driver. What do you think of that guy?
That's an oxymoron. Race car drivers are not geniuses. Geniuses are guys like Norman Einstein.
Look at that Honda on the outside of the carousel. Out there in uncharted territory, he's trying to make it work. Look, oh, so he had to get out of the throttle right there. Tommy was about to get bumped.
Well, let's see now. Norman Einstein would have dictated the physics on that one and said he had to get out of the throttle.
Well, he did dictate the physics.
Yeah.
Because
Race car drivers are not the sharpest.
2 solid objects can't occupy the same space at the same time.
Look at this. Now 3 abreast through turn 1, and Wilson Wright ran out of room, and Kirk Olsen was able to get by everybody, and just that quick,
that
3rd to the lead.
Russ Theus got a good run going right there too, and that moves him up into 3rd place now. But that front drive showing its power now, not its power, but its grip.
That was a nice move by Kirk Olsen. So John Olsen now 2nd, and a very racy Russ Theus wanting to take that silver medal position away.
Battle for the national.
Number 93 Honda CRX, but the front drive in this weather is paying some big dividends here as he draws away. Look at the mist in the air right now, and of course that's settling on the track. It's not raining per se, but it's like just sort of totally dehumidifying here, and the track very, very wet. Take a look now at our Dodge race reset as Kirk Olsen is your leader at the 8 of 19 laps, almost halfway. He's just led the most recent lap here. There have been 3 lead changes, 2 cars off track. Make it a 3rd as Rusty Bell, who was running in 5th and having a great race, has had it all go wrong as he gets into what they call the beach here, leading in to turn 5 in the approach to the S's.
It obviously has gotten a whole lot wetter since the last lap, because you saw Theus was really struggling going down there, and Rusty lost the car under braking well before the corner and speared off the left side and caught the wall on the left. See,
Yeah, he's already off
already hit
track
the wall.
here. He's bounced once. You can see the line. He tagged it pretty healthily, too.
Well, his day is done. Look at the right front corner. You can tell it's knocked off. He's not a happy guy about that. Like you said, Tommy, the racetrack, as we were looking at that humid picture of all that fog and mist, it is completely a saturated racetrack now, and these guys still on slicks.
And that's going to obviously play directly into the hands of Kirk Olsen in that front drive Honda CRX. And we don't mean to harp on that, but it is such a factor here. And perhaps more so on slicks. We've talked about you've got a car, a rear drive car that's well balanced, set up for the rain. On rain tires can be very effective. But if everybody's on slicks in very slippery conditions, as he is now fighting off a huge attack by Wilson Wright, a front drive car's got a distinct advantage.
Yeah, it does. It really, in theory, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Again, I've already established that I'm not the brightest guy in the booth here, but you're asking the front wheels to not only turn, you're also putting all the power and the turning through the same small contact patch, which is why, in theory, the rear wheel drive shouldn't be that much worse if it's well balanced. As you're asking the rear to drive the car, you're asking the front to steer it. But the proof's in the pudding, and so far, any of the real wet races, the front wheel drive cars have made everybody else look silly. But look what
Theus has figured something out, hasn't he, in that white number 37 Toyota. But we have that yellow, and that's really going to be a problem here, because that's a spot where a car can make a pass fairly cleanly by just getting a good run, and now that whole area of the track is yellow, and that is a no passing zone. So that's the problem. And of course, Tommy, it was Norman's brother Albert who figured out a lot of the physics that's applied through a race car.
So I'll stand by my original statement that race car drivers are not the brightest.
We're going to go now take a look at a great battle for 10th right now, and that's number 31 Dale Mills and number 10 Richard Grant. There is number 12, who has moved up nicely. Jim Nealon has come up through the pack very nicely. He is now in 8th. Nealon is. Then it's Grant in the number 10 car 9th, and right behind them 31 Dale Mills. And they have had a very stout battle. In fact, there's a train of cars that are battling for, well, everything from 8th to about 15th at this point. And here comes one of the, is that one of the Nissans again? Yep, that's 31 Mills, who just dropped the hammer in his Volare Rebello engine Nissan and moved by. Theus is off.
Yep, Russ Theus is off now. That's a shame for him. He was struggling right along there. That's in the carousel. He's spun and continued. No contact made, so he's okay that way, but loses a lot of ground on the racetrack.
So number 7, Wilson Wright, now should move up into the 2nd spot. We'll see where Theus comes through. He's now 5th. He has slipped to 5th, so it's your leader remains the Honda CRX of Kirk Olsen. Then it's 7, Wilson Wright. 3, John Olsen in the Nissan. And 4th now is number 18. So he's having a good run, but here's what happened to Theus.
He's got in there too deep, I think, Tommy. Couldn't get it stopped or turned in, and it just plowed right off into the grass.
We're at that point where the tires finally lose their last bit of temperature, and they go kind of just stone cold. And I think that might be what happened to the leader, Kirk Olsen, which allowed Theus to close up. I think Olsen probably had a big moment somewhere, said, wow, it is really starting to get wet out here. He backed it off. Theus says, I've got him, pounced on him, and then it caught him. So I think there's only a couple laps left. Well, actually, we're just past halfway. Biz?
Jerry Lindwall is the crew chief for Theus, and my gosh, here you are. What a weekend it's been for you. It's the first time you're not on pole position here in 4 times, and now you just saw your driver spin off the track. What did he say to you on the radio?
Well, he said he just spun over in the carousel, didn't hit anything. The car feels real fine, so he's just going to try to catch up right now.
At this point, do you wish you would have sent him out there on rain tires?
Well, still, we would have went on slicks because everybody else is on slicks.
There you go, guys. He's in the same boat as everybody else, but I'll tell you, it's so slick in this pit lane. I'm afraid I'm going to do another ACL knee job down here, guys.
Oh, and we have ourselves a brew on the track. Number 10, Grant, right there. He is in the 10th spot, and he is being absolutely hounded by number 85, Joe Tenney. And right behind them is number 28. That's Juan Montalvo. And again, you can see more cars coming up behind them as well. And look at Montalvo now taking a run. And Tenney moves to the inside, Montalvo outside. That is a rain tire. And a number of drivers out there probably wishing they had 4 of them bolted on these GT4 machines.
Plus John Madden and the Fox NFL Sunday Gang. A full hour of pregame power.
We're just getting cranked up here.
NFL This Morning on Fox Sports Net, followed by Fox NFL Sunday on your local Fox affiliate.
So I'm trying to get here, leave my house, rock slide. Finally get here. I asked the man what's going on. He says it's closed. It's been closed for 32 years. What on earth am I doing even leaving my couch?
11 of 19 laps now completed. GT4 traffic going to play a key, although not too much for Kirk Olsen as he just steamed by that lap car. And right now, the guy chasing him, Wilson Wright, up, and number 18 has come up, and that's Mark Brannon. And Brannon, in that Mazda GLH, another front drive car, started 13th and worked his way into 4th, and now he is off. So it's catching up everybody. Yeah. Watch what happens here. That's 37. He just got around Theus, but something happens here. He caught the curve. Well, it looks okay here.
He's going to go down. Theus is going to take a run down the inside or think of it. He can't get stopped. He's going to get the big punt right there.
Yeah, Theus had to run down the hill and just lock the brakes in these wet conditions.
Ooh, it takes off his bumper with the right front corner.
And bumper-induced oversteer.
Yes, it was. That's exactly what it was.
Sometimes the throttle induces, other times it's the bumper of the car behind you.
Is that what they mean when they say they changed the bump?
It sped up his taillights in relation to the headlights. That's what happened.
Another way to look at it. So Theus obviously is starting to move back up to the pack, and I know Russ didn't mean to do that, but boy, it is slippery out there. And Russ, he is out here to win, and he's going to do everything he can to get up through the pack. And knowing Russ, he did not mean to hit him, but he's certainly running at the absolute edge. Your leader, Kirk Olsen, in that CRX, we saw him have an off. I mean, he is not absolutely devoid of possible problems, but Sandy, right now, he is driving very, very strong.
And they give a lot of that credit to the engine builder, Preben Christensen. They rebuilt this car from the ground up. New suspension. They worked a lot on the engine, and that may be one of the factors. Also, remember, he's from the Rocky Mountain division, and they say, his crew says he does have experience with rain, and he kind of likes it.
He likes it, and Juan Montalvo is enjoying it as he now has continued his charge. He's got around number 85, Joe Tenney, and you met Juan, and of course his dad, Juan Montalvo Sr., has been a longtime competitor here. And Juan, he's going fast, so fast that windshield wiper has come right off the car.
Well, what does that is he's been up underneath the back end of another car, and the buffeting that off the car in front of you starts making the windshield wiper so banging up and down the windshield, and it finally just the spring popped it right up like that. So not very effective that way.
His radio reception to his crew has suddenly gotten a lot clearer, though.
Well, yeah, he's got dueling antennas now.
So Montalvo sits in the 8th spot at 48. Dave Dobry has gone around. That's an older Toyota Corolla, but Dave is always very, very quick in club racing, and he comes to the runoffs every year, but it just got away from him apparently in turn 1.
Yeah, well, it must have happened pretty early in turn 1 because you saw him right there, you know, sitting there pretty much not even into the corner yet.
You know, Wilson Wright, the orange number 7 there, who qualified second and the defending champion, looks like he might just be closing in a little bit on Kirk Olsen.
Well, you know what it's doing him for. I was watching Olsen. I was impressed by him, but now I think it's actually, it is still hurting him. He was just thumbing his nose to those concrete patches, driving right over them, acting like they weren't even there, and it wasn't really upsetting the car. But you see in the back, Wilson Wright is really making some ground with a car that isn't as optimized for the rain, but watch him. He is really giving those concrete patches as much berth as he can and staying off them unless he absolutely has to cross over.
Yeah, watch him cut back here. Gets those right side tires, the loaded tires outside of it. Now watch Olsen, because in some of these he's just turning across those patches and the car's just pushing like crazy. Boy, he just tiptoed through there, Wilson Wright did, but he has done a nice job of avoiding those concrete patches whenever possible. Biz, those rear drive cars, they got to be a little careful.
Oh, they got to be real careful. Again, I keep telling you how slippery it is, guys, but it is like an ice rink down here, and I'm with Sue Rogers, who's the crew chief for Wilson Wright. Sue, what's he saying to you on the radio? He can't be enjoying himself that much out there in these conditions.
Actually, he's disconnected the radio. We've got so much feedback from other, I don't know what, vendors or something. So we've disconnected, and it's probably just as well he needs to concentrate on his car control right now.
Now, you saw this weather coming in when you were on the pre-grid. What changes did you make?
Just loosened up the sway bar, stayed with the slicks. We didn't have intermediates, so we didn't have a lot of choices.
Just soften it up as much as possible?
Yeah.
Okay, Sue, You also have a message for Dorsey Schrader, don't you?
Hey, Dorsey, I love you. Hope to see you.
He's been hiding out in his motorhome.
Oh, good for him. This has been not the best weather, but hey, we all have to put up with it.
There you go, guys.
Well, Sue Rogers and I worked together for quite a long time at Skip Barber Racing School. Sue worked in the office there and came out to the racetrack, so she's been around racing a long time and now crew chiefing for a quite competitive car who's trying to win this race.
Hubba, hubba, hubba.
How about that stuff?
Dorsey.
Onto the front or the back straight we go once again. Olson, and there's Wright, and those changes seem to have worked a little bit as he's closing in. One of the interesting things was they said we didn't have intermediates. The important thing to remember here is now there's lap traffic, and this is coming around Grant as they slice down into the S's once again. At club racing, budgets are not always what you guys might be, more familiar with dealing with, and sometimes you just don't have tires.
Sometimes you have to prioritize, and intermediates is a real low percentage expense. You could go to 10 races and never use them. So a lot of people, I would think, sometimes you hand groove them up at the last second, but you don't want to kill a good set of slicks either. So that's a good point.
Boy, look at Olson, very loose, Dorsey.
Yeah, well, it's awful slippery right now, no question about that. Hand-cut tires would be what you'd want right now. Nobody had that option. They're all on very slippery conditions.
Very slippery conditions indeed, and the guy doing the best, at least right now, number 93, Kirk Olson out of Lakewood, Colorado. 5 laps to go in GT4.
An all-new collection from the greatest names in rock. 40 hits that define rock music.
Ooh, Barracuda.
Over 2.5 hours of hits together for the first time in one landmark collection. This special 2-CD collector set also includes an extensive 60-page booklet packed with rare photos and facts. More superstars, more hits. You've never seen a collection like this before. 40 of the biggest hits from the greatest stars. Rock music soundtrack for a century. Own it today.
Call 1-800-954-6226 for the century's best rock music. That's 1-800-954-6226.
Today's live coverage of the 1999 SCCA Runoffs is being brought to you by Valvoline. You can always tell the guys who use Valvoline. It's also being brought to you by Toyota. Get the most out of your day every day. There is number 93, Kirk Olson, as he comes on to the front straight.
He is no longer our leader.
And here is what happened. Watch this now, as Wilson Wright got a run on him into the S's. And he went around all by himself, just locked it up, a double wiggle, and around he went.
The outbreak side comes through. They drove down in there real deep. Look right here, another replay. Here comes right down the inside. He brings them in there real deep. And watch now, 93. Watch what happens. He gets in there even deeper yet. The back end starts skating, and good defensive job by Wright not to hit him. Turns to the right, and his new leader.
Well, he was the new leader, but we're watching the timing and scoring monitors, and he seems to be slipping through the pack. There is Wright as he goes into turn 1. Well, we'll have to see what's going on here. Maybe the weather here is affecting timing and scoring a little bit. It certainly looks like Wilson Wright is the leader. And by the way, it also looks like the weather's picking up a little bit and getting a bit damper, as you saw. Whoa, there's a wiggle right there. Boy, it is treacherous out there on the slick tires.
You see him cutting across those concrete patches, trying not to intersect them. That one he puts his right side wheels inside of, but watch up here. This is really, really slippery now.
So let's go back down to pit lane. Sandy?
Well, I'm with Dave Stone, his crew chief right now, and he's listening to the spotter talking about what happened and getting them in position right now for the next move. What are they telling you? What are your spotters telling you?
Oh, he said the engine died under braking, but he got it started again.
That engine that's been doing so well for you.
Yes. it's still doing very well for us.
Well, let's go. And again, that was Dave Stone, his crew chief.
Dorsey?
Well, let me explain what he's talking about there. He said the engine died under braking. That's not an electrical problem. That's a front-wheel drive car. And he's locked the front wheels up without putting the clutch in, and it's killed the motor as well. And then when you do modulate off the brake, the motor's dead, and the car wants to go straight off the racetrack, because I know that I crashed my car 3 times like that at this racetrack in the rain. So one of the things in a front-wheel drive car that helps is if you get on the brake and that happens, get the clutch in right away so that you don't have the motor dying on you.
I suppose when you got somebody putting immense pressure on you and you're looking in your mirrors and the like, suddenly that's not the most thing most prevalent on your mind is the clutch. You're just trying to get through the corner. And so Wilson Wright is indeed your leader, and he has just completed lap 17. Biz?
And the only person more happy than Wilson Wright is Sue Rogers. Everything you did that car had to be right. He's not on the radio to you, but you're still giving him the lap times. What did the lap times tell you?
Actually, we're just giving him the break between first and second place, and anybody that comes near him. Times on a day like today aren't that relevant for us. It's just, you gotta.
But he's incredibly consistent. Everything is in the 93s. I mean, he's terribly consistent. That means that he's comfortable in the car.
Well, I guess without talking to him, but actually I'm just trying to do a little bit of a lap chart, so the 93 isn't really.
Oh my gosh, you shot me down twice now. Let's get one question straight here. Are you happy about being in first place?
Oh yeah. But I don't want to get too excited. We went through this last year. Anything can happen. Good competitors, great competitors. It's racing. We've been in it so long. We know what can happen, and
the nice thing about it, no one's really touched anybody out there. They're doing it in the slick, racing so closely and not banging into one another.
Well, this is true, but when he gets back in after the race, regardless of where he finishes, he's going to find out some bad news. We had someone in the paddock near us ask us to move our tow vehicles, and I said, gee, we're going out right now, but I accommodated him, and I blocked somebody else, so they came running over and said, we need to move your truck, and I said, okay, here are the keys. There was a bit of a crash in the paddock. Wilson doesn't know it yet.
Well, I'll tell you, he's making up for that. He'll be so happy. I wouldn't tell him until he's off the podium, though.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
There you go, guys.
All right. Well, he is on his final lap, and well, if there was indeed a crash, a gold medal is going to go a long way to make that a little bit more acceptable. But Wilson right now, all he's thinking is surviving the final lap in some very treacherous conditions. As Kirk Olsen, it didn't take long. He slipped back a little bit, and Olsen's back into second place, but a long way behind Wilson Wright. And you know, one thing we have seen more of this weekend so far is back-to-back national championship winners, and if Wilson hangs on, he's going to do it.
I'll tell you, Wilson, you can't overstate how great a job Wilson's doing here under very tough conditions. You see in all the trouble everybody else is having, he's going through the same stuff. He's just making it look easy. Talking about that radio feedback, I've had that. There is nothing worse than trying to concentrate on the race, and you've got a conversation of some backhoe operator talking with his boss about how they should approach moving this log, and it's bleeding through on your radio, and you just finally get so fed up, you just jerk the cord right out of it.
Well, it seems to have worked because his concentration level has been supreme in these last few laps to the point where he was able to, as you said, Dorsey, psych brake a front-wheel drive car into a mistake. That's pretty remarkable.
Now, right now, I mean, what he's trying to do is, there's the 93 right now who's got back up in the second. You know, what he's trying to do now is talk himself around here. He doesn't have any radio communication, so basically, you know, he's just winging it.
Yeah, Kirk Olsen is doing a nice job. There is his crew chief who is watching the progress here. And, of course, he is looking for the silver medal because Wilson Wright into the carousel one last time. Oh! Boy, it looked like he maybe went in a little hotter than he wanted. A big correction on the wheel, but he saved it through the left-hander, turned 15 onto the front straight. And Wilson Wright, another back-to-back winner. And Sue is absolutely ecstatic. And maybe part of it is because she knows she can tell him about the accident, and he's going to have a gold medal around his neck. So Wilson Wright, a great job. And as you put it, Tommy, you can't underestimate what a remarkable performance that was in these conditions. We'll meet him in a minute.
Are you tired of waiting for monthly car magazines?
Back to Mid-Ohio. There is a thumbs up from a starter to a double back-to-back national champion. And there's the crew, Sue Rogers and the rest of the crew, and very, very happy indeed. And I think because not only that they won the championship, but they recognized a great drive, as did the workers. Look at that. They want the drivers to see they appreciate what they have seen as well on a very drizzly and rainy day here at Mid-Ohio. That just makes, I would think, in a way, these championships all the more sweet, because you have to overcome not only competitors but condition. And Wilson Wright did it with Kirk Olsen, a very impressive second. John Olsen there all day in third. Warren Montague fourth. Russ Theus obviously have battled a couple of times, but hung in there for the top 5. Mark Brannon rebounded to 6. Parks, Mills, Nealon, and John Mills round out the top 10, and Sue Rogers has got to be thrilled.
Well, she is thrilled, and she's, you know, it's a real tradition here at the runoff for the crew to take a ride around the track, who have worked so hard to put this car in a championship winning position. Sue was all ready for the interview, but she is doing what she deserves. She has worked on this car. She has thought the process of setting it up right. She is more of a part of this team than anyone else as far as getting the mechanics correct. So right now we're not going to ride around with her. If the aircraft was still in the air, we'd go with her. But right now she just says that she's just unbelievably happy, and it's a well-deserved, well-earned victory.
Did you see her reach over there, Biz, and say, "Give me that checkered flag"?
Give me that flag.
Oh.
That flag's half mine. Give me that flag now.
That's a scary ride, Biz.
That's a real scary ride, I'll tell you. You know, I don't know why they still let people do this. They've got people hanging out of the trunks and hanging on the roll bars. You know, but it's a tradition, and of course the drivers go much slower than they normally do.
It doesn't look like a particularly comfortable ride.
No, my brother liked to kill me in the car. I got in the car after he won a race, and I tell you what, that was only the one time. I'm not going to do that ever again.
So there she goes, Sue Rogers, along with your national champion, Wilson Wright. We had 4 lead changes between 3 drivers in that race, 1 caution for 2 laps, but 5 different leaders on different occasions. Great racing.
Everybody take your seats. Okay, class, let's try some basic phrases.
Dream.
That is the crew of a national champion, and very happy. Of course, that was a moment ago. Sue now has that hair straight back behind her and that flag flying as she is enjoying the lap of honor here at Mid-Ohio. Wilson Wright Jr. comes from second on the grid, back a little bit, up a little bit, but what he did was win another national championship, and it was a great, great day. Now, another guy who had a pretty solid day, number 3, your pole sitter, John Olsen, ended up with a bronze medal. Sandy?
3rd place for the number 3 car bronze medalist, John Olsen. A great run for you.
Yeah, we're very happy with that run. We kept out of trouble. I saw a lot of things happening. When I went out there warming up the tires, I knew it was like ice, and we were very lucky to stay out of all the stuff.
Well, talking about stuff, wait a minute. I want to show you the number 3 car. We got a little donut here. Tell us about that.
No, that's, let's see, that's Sears Point. No, that's a Button Willow or something. That's not here.
Are you sure?
Anybody. I'm positive.
It was a clean...
Absolutely not a spot with anybody. It was very nice. Russ and everybody drove very clean, very nice. Nobody pushed too hard. Everybody was really nice.
Well, congratulations. And we were talking to your crew chief earlier. He's happy that this car is in one piece. Hey, Biz.
Well, I'm with another Olsen, Kirk Olsen. Congratulations on a great 2nd place finish here. But I'll tell you, you had some problems out there. At first half spin, and then the motor stopped on heavy braking or something like that. That's the report we got. What was that?
Well, I was downshifting, trying to keep Willie behind me, and missed 2nd gear coming down into turn 5. And when I did it, went back to grab it again, the motor had stalled on me, and it snap-spun the car. That was all it rode. Willie got by. He drove a good race. Got to be proud of him.
Did that cost you the race?
No, I think the first 2 spins before that cost me the race. We stayed with our dry setup. We were hoping for dry weather today, and didn't loosen the car up enough in the shocks, and it was just too twitchy in the turn-in, so...
How about racing that close with, as you say, Willie Wilson? I mean, there's not a mark on your car. I mean, the 2 of you were at it tooth and nail, and you never really touched each other once.
Sure. No, you got to have confidence in the guys you're driving with. I think everybody in the top 10 in this group are pretty confident drivers. So you get out there and you make sure that you try not to rub against them, and they try not to rub against you.
Would you have had it would you have rather had it absolutely wet or in these incredibly ice rink conditions?
No, I'd rather have had it dry, or if it was full wet, sure, we would have put intermediates on and gone full wet. But you know, halfway in between, you take your chance, you roll the dice.
Well, there's a beautiful Nissan that just came in here, and Sandy's next to it.
Well, that's Wilson Wright, the man in orange. You were there at the right time.
Yes, yes. It was it was like the GT4 race. You know, you go out there and it's like range dries, range dries. What do? You know, so everybody's going out and dries, and oh boy, obviously it was the right choice, but boy, it was a little hairy out there, I'll tell you.
Well, we heard that 7 looked like a fishing hole at certain points.
Yeah, it was a little bit on the slippery side. You could go right up to the wall if you really weren't careful, to say the least. Oh, that's right. And then you can go off into the gravel trap too. Then, yeah, it was slippery everywhere. Well, concrete, it was just unbelievable. You had to stay off the concrete.
Well, I guess winning back-to-back championships will make you a little speechless, won't it?
Well, a little bit, but you know, I got to thank, you know, Applied Flow Technology and Goodyear. Goodyear tires were great today.
And congratulations to all your sponsors and to you. Hey, guys.
Oh, what an awesome drive by Wilson Wright once again. The conditions probably favored another car out there, but the driver did an awesome job. We'll be back for more from Mid-Ohio.